In a quiet observatory nestled high in the mountains of South Korea, astronomer Ji-yoon Kim sat hunched over her desk. The room was dimly lit, with only the glow of computer screens illuminating her face. Outside, the cold wind howled against the glass windows, but inside the air buzzed with excitement. Or maybe it was just the hum of machines. For years, Ji-yoon had been scanning the skies, searching for something extraordinary. Tonight, she finally found it. It started as an odd blip on her monitor, a faint signal coming from deep space. At first, she thought it might be interference, or some glitch in the system. But when she ran the data through advanced filters, something unusual emerged. The signal wasn't random noise, it followed patterns too precise to be natural. It pulsed in intervals that matched prime numbers, a classic sign of intelligent design. Her heart raced as she realized what this could mean. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate. Ji-yoon spent hours analyzing the signal, piecing together its structure. By dawn, she'd decoded fragments of information embedded within it. What she uncovered sent chills down her spine. The message came from a distant alien civilization calling themselves the Varathians. They described their home planet as lush and vibrant, brimming with life. But now, their world was under siege by another species, the Xylothar. These invaders weren't like anything humanity had ever encountered before. According to the message, they were parasitic beings capable of consuming entire ecosystems in mere months. The Varathians begged for help, offering advanced technology in return if humanity could save them. Word of Ji-yoon's discovery spread quickly. Within days, governments around the globe convened emergency meetings to discuss the implications. Military leaders debated whether responding to the plea was wise. Some argued that helping the Varathians would demonstrate humanity's compassion and strength. Others warned of potential risks. If the aliens were desperate enough to ask for help, who knew what kind of threat they truly faced? General Hwang Min-soo, head of the United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, stood firm in his belief that caution was paramount. A tall man with sharp eyes and a commanding presence, General Hwang had spent decades preparing for threats both terrestrial and extraterrestrial. He insisted that any response must include overwhelming force. "If we're going to answer their call," he said during one heated meeting, "we send not just aid, but the deadliest armada humanity has ever assembled." His proposal sparked controversy. Many questioned whether such aggression was necessary or even ethical, but General Hwang remained resolute. In his view, showing strength was the safest course of action. If the aliens respected power, then humanity needed to prove itself formidable. And so, plans began to take shape. Captain Subin Park, commander of the UEDF flagship Daegun, received orders to prepare his fleet for deployment. Known for his calm demeanor and strategic brilliance, Subin took the news seriously. Leading an interstellar mission was no small task, especially given the unknown nature of the enemy. As he walked through the bustling corridors of the Daegun, he couldn't shake off a sense of unease. This wasn't just another training exercise. Lives depended on every decision he made. The Daegun itself was a marvel of engineering, equipped with cutting-edge weapon systems and AI-driven fighters. Its sleek hull gleamed under the artificial lights of the docking bay, ready to embark on its most critical mission yet. Around it, smaller vessels lined up, forming a massive armada. Pilots like Lieutenant Jae-ho Lee trained tirelessly in simulators, honing their skills for battles they hoped never to fight. Engineers worked around the clock, ensuring every piece of equipment functioned flawlessly. Amidst all this preparation, Ji-yoon found herself caught between excitement and dread. She'd dreamed of making first contact with an alien species since childhood, poring over science fiction novels and imagining conversations with beings from other worlds. Now, reality had surpassed her wildest fantasies, but not without complications. The more she learned about the Varathians' plight, the more she worried about humanity's role in it. Would they act out of compassion? Or would fear drive them to repeat the same mistakes they always did? One evening, as Ji-eun reviewed the latest updates on the Varathian signal, she noticed something peculiar. Hidden within the encoded message was a warning. The Xylothar weren't simply parasites. They thrived on chaos and destruction. Their attacks weren't random. They targeted civilizations at their weakest moments, exploiting vulnerabilities until nothing remained. Ji-un shivered as she read the words. They do not stop. They cannot be reasoned with. She forwarded her findings to General Huan and Captain Subin, urging them to reconsider their approach. We need to understand them better, she argued. Sending brute force might provoke exactly what we're trying to prevent. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. With time running out, the UEDF pushed forward with their plans. As the launch date approached, tension aboard the Daigon grew palpable. Soldiers exchanged nervous glances, while technicians double-checked instruments. Lieutenant Yoon-jin Choi, the fleet's communications officer, tried to keep spirits high. She organized group meals and encouraged camaraderie among the crew, reminding everyone why they were here. We're making history, she told them. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Finally, the day arrived. Thousands gathered at the spaceport to witness the departure of the Armada. Families waved goodbye to loved ones, tears streaming down their faces. Journalists captured the scene, broadcasting live footage to millions worldwide. As the engines roared to life and the ships ascended into the sky, cheers erupted across the planet. Humanity was stepping into the unknown, and there was no turning back. For Ji-un, standing on the observation deck of the Daegun, the moment felt surreal. Below her, Earth shrank into a blue dot surrounded by endless blackness. Above stretched infinite possibilities, filled with wonder and danger alike. She clutched the railing tightly, praying they were doing the right thing. Whatever awaited them beyond the stars, one truth loomed large: humanity's fate, and perhaps the fate of countless others, rested in their hands. The journey through hyperspace was unlike anything the crew of the Daegun had ever experienced. For weeks, the massive armada traveled silently across unimaginable distances, leaving Earth far behind. Inside the ships, life settled into a rhythm of routines and rituals. Soldiers trained, engineers worked, and scientists analyzed data. Yet beneath the surface calm, tensions simmered like an invisible storm waiting to break. Captain Subin Park spent most of his time in the command center, overseeing operations and planning strategies. He rarely slept, often retreating to his quarters only to stare out the window at the endless void outside. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. This wasn't just another mission. It was humanity's first step into the galaxy, and failure could mean extinction for both humans and the Varathians. Every decision he made carried consequences that stretched beyond himself. Lieutenant Yoon-jin Choi noticed the strain on her captain's face. As the fleet's communications officer, she had grown close to him over the years, sharing countless missions and late-night conversations. One evening, as they stood together in the observation lounge, she decided to speak up. "You look tired," she said gently. "Are you sure you're okay?" Subin sighed, running a hand through his short hair. "I don't know if I am," he admitted. "We're heading into uncharted territory, facing an enemy we barely understand. What if we're not ready? What if we make things worse instead of better?" Yoon-jin hesitated before responding. She knew how much pressure he was under, but she also believed in his abilities. "You've prepared us as best as anyone could," she said finally. "And we're not alone. Everyone here trusts you. You've earned that. All we can do now is focus on what's ahead." Her words brought a flicker of reassurance, though doubt still lingered in Subin's mind. He nodded and thanked her before returning to his duties. There was no time for second-guessing. The fleet depended on him to stay sharp. Meanwhile, Ji-un Kim continued working tirelessly to decode more of the Varathian signal. Her small office aboard the Daegun was cluttered with papers, screens, and half-empty coffee cups. Despite the chaos around her, Ji-un remained laser-focused. Each new fragment of information brought her closer to understanding the Varathians and their terrifying enemy, the Xylothar. One night, while poring over a particularly complex section of the message, Ji-un stumbled upon something alarming. The Varathians described the Xylothar not merely as parasites, but as biomechanical entities capable of rapid adaptation. Their bodies weren't static. They evolved in real time, changing form and function to counter threats. Worse still, the Xylothar communicated telepathically, forming a hive mind that acted as one cohesive unit. Conventional weapons might prove useless against such an adversary. Ji-yoon immediately reported her findings to General Huan Min-soo, who listened intently despite his usual impatience. When she finished explaining, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "So, we're dealing with something that thinks faster than us and adapts quicker than our technology can keep up," he summarized grimly. Not exactly encouraging. "It's not hopeless," Ji-yoon countered. "If we focus on disrupting their communication network, their hive mind, we might stand a chance. But we'll need precision, not brute force." Huan frowned but didn't argue. He trusted Ji-yoon's expertise, even if her cautious approach clashed with his instincts. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity needed to project strength above all else. "We'll consider your advice," he said curtly. "But remember, sometimes fear is the best deterrent." As the days passed, the fleet encountered various challenges. Hyperspace travel took its toll on equipment, requiring constant maintenance. Pilots like Lieutenant Jae-ho Lee endured grueling simulations designed to mimic potential combat scenarios. Though physically exhausting, these exercises fostered camaraderie among the crew. Bonds formed quickly, forged by shared hardship and mutual respect. One day, during a routine patrol, a scout ship detected unusual debris floating in space. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be remnants of what appeared to be a Xylothar vessel. Its design was unlike anything human engineers had ever seen, organic yet mechanical, pulsating faintly as though alive. Scientists aboard the Daegun eagerly examined samples, eager to learn more about their foe. Dr. Seong-ah Kim, a xenobiologist assigned to the mission, led the analysis. Her excitement was tempered by caution as she studied the eerie remains. Under microscopic scrutiny, the material revealed horrifying traits. The Xylothar weren't just adaptable, they were predatory, feeding off energy sources and organic matter alike. Even dead, parts of the wreckage continued to twitch and shift, driven by some residual instinct. "This changes everything," Dr. Seong-ah murmured to herself, jotting down notes furiously. If the Xylothar could survive, even partially after destruction, defeating them would require more than traditional warfare. Humanity needed a plan that accounted for every possible scenario. Back in the command center, Captain Subin reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. The closer they got to the Verathian system, the clearer it became that this mission wouldn't be straightforward. Morale among the crew fluctuated wildly. Some saw themselves as heroes embarking on a noble quest, while others feared they were walking blindly into a trap. To boost spirits, Lieutenant Yoon Jin organized cultural exchanges between human and Verathian representatives. Using translated messages sent ahead via subspace communication, the two groups shared music, stories, and art. These interactions helped bridge the gap between species, fostering a sense of unity despite vast differences. For many aboard the fleet, it became clear that humanity wasn't fighting solely for itself. They were fighting for allies who deserved a future free from terror. Yet doubts persisted. Private Min-kyu Ro, a young soldier fresh out of training, struggled with anxiety. Late at night, he sat alone in the mess hall, writing letters to his family back on Earth. "I hope I can come home soon," he wrote in shaky handwriting. "But if I don't, please tell Mom and Dad I love them." His words echoed the fears of countless others, each grappling with uncertainty in their own way. Finally, after months of travel, the fleet approached the outskirts of the Verathian system. The sight that greeted them was devastating. Planets once teeming with life now lay barren, stripped of vegetation and water. Entire ecosystems had been consumed, leaving behind skeletal landscapes devoid of color or movement. The scale of destruction shocked everyone, reinforcing the urgency of their mission. General Huan watched the footage in silence, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a steely resolve. "This is why we're here," he declared, "to stop this nightmare from spreading further. We owe it to the Verathians and to ourselves." For Ji-yoon, the images evoked a mix of sorrow and determination. She thought about the Verathians' desperate plea for help, and wondered whether humanity truly understood the gravity of what it meant to intervene. Could they avoid repeating the same mistakes that plagued Earth's history? Or would pride and fear lead them astray? As preparations intensified for the final leg of the journey, Captain Subin gathered his senior officers for a briefing. "We're entering hostile territory," he began, addressing the group. "Expect resistance at every turn. Our goal is to locate the source of the Xylothar threat and neutralize it. But we must proceed carefully. Remember, we're not just soldiers. We're ambassadors of humanity." His words resonated deeply, reminding everyone of the dual nature of their task. They weren't simply waging war, they were shaping humanity's place in the cosmos. With renewed purpose, the crew returned to their stations, ready to face whatever awaited them. The Dagon and its accompanying fleet sailed onward, cutting through the darkness of space like a beacon of hope, or perhaps a harbinger of doom. Ahead lay answers, battles, and choices that would define the course of history. Humanity had answered the call of the stars, but the true test was only beginning. The arrival of the human armada in the Varathian system was met with a mixture of awe and desperation. The Varathians, once a proud and advanced civilization, now resembled refugees clinging to the remnants of their world. Their cities lay in ruins, their skies darkened by ash and smoke. Survivors huddled in underground bunkers, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. For them, the sight of humanity's massive fleet descending from the heavens felt like both salvation and judgment. Ambassador Kyung-Soo Nam stepped forward to represent Earth. A seasoned diplomat known for his calm demeanor and sharp intellect, Kyung-Soo had been chosen specifically for this delicate task. His mission was clear: establish trust, gather intelligence, and ensure that humanity's intentions aligned with the Varathians' needs. Accompanied by Ji-Yun Kim, who served as translator and advisor, he boarded a shuttle bound for the surface of the Varathian homeworld. High Chancellor Irindra greeted them upon arrival. Tall and elegant, with shimmering skin that reflected light like water, Irindra exuded an air of quiet dignity despite the chaos surrounding her. She welcomed the humans warmly, expressing gratitude for their willingness to help. "You honor us with your presence," she said through Ji-Yun's translation. "But time is not on our side. The Xylothar grows stronger with each passing day." Over the next few hours, Irindra provided detailed accounts of the invasion. The Xylothar had arrived suddenly, emerging from the depths of space without warning. At first, they seemed harmless, mere clusters of drifting organisms floating aimlessly. But soon, their true nature revealed itself. They consumed everything in their path, devouring resources and leaving desolation behind. Entire planets were stripped bare within weeks, their ecosystems collapsing under the relentless onslaught. What made the Xylothar so terrifying wasn't just their hunger. It was their unity. Each drone operated as part of a single collective consciousness, controlled by a central hive mind. This hive mind acted as the brain of the entire species, coordinating attacks and adapting strategies in real time. Destroying individual drones achieved little. Only targeting the core hive offered any hope of stopping them. As Kyung-Soo listened intently, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. The scale of the threat was beyond anything humanity had prepared for. Yet there was no turning back now. The Varathians depended on Earth's intervention, and failure would mean not only their extinction, but potentially humanity's as well. Back aboard the Dagon, General Huan Min-Soo wasted no time pushing for action. He convened a meeting with Captain Subin Park and other senior officers to discuss strategy. "We need to hit them hard and fast," he declared, pacing the room. "Show them we're not here to negotiate, we're here to win, Adan." Subin, however, urged caution. "We can't rush into this blindly," he argued. "We don't fully understand how the Xylothar operate. If we attack recklessly, we risk making things worse." General Huan scowled but reluctantly agreed to a compromise. A small reconnaissance team would infiltrate Xylothar territory to gather intelligence, while the rest of the fleet prepared for battle. Among those selected for the mission were Lieutenant Jae-Ho Lee, whose piloting skills were unmatched, and Dr. Seong-Ah Kim, whose expertise in xenobiology proved invaluable. The infiltration began under cover of darkness, or rather the perpetual twilight cast by the devastated planet's atmosphere. The team moved cautiously, their ship cloaked to avoid detection. Through the cockpit window, they observed the eerie landscape below, sprawling fields of blackened soil, skeletal trees, and rivers reduced to dry cracks in the earth. It was a graveyard of a once thriving world. As they ventured deeper, signs of the Xylothar became increasingly apparent. Towering structures loomed in the distance, pulsating faintly with an otherworldly glow. These weren't buildings in the traditional sense. They were living organisms, extensions of the hive mind itself. Tendrils writhed across the ground, connecting one structure to another like veins in a body. The sight sent chills down everyone's spines. Dr. Xiong leaned closer to the monitor, studying the imagery with fascination and horror. "They're not just consuming resources," she whispered. "They're assimilating them, turning everything into part of themselves." Lieutenant J-Ho nodded grimly. "Which means destroying one piece won't stop the whole thing. We need to find the heart, the source of their control." Guided by data provided by the Varathians, the team located what appeared to be the central hive. It was a colossal organism, its surface covered in writhing tendrils and glowing nodules. Energy crackled around it, creating a barrier that seemed impenetrable. Getting close enough to study it posed a significant challenge. "We'll have to split up," J-Ho suggested. "I'll draw their attention while you analyze the structure. If we can find a weakness, we might stand a chance." Dr. Xiong hesitated but ultimately agreed. While J-Ho maneuvered the ship to distract nearby drones, she deployed scanning equipment to gather critical information. What she discovered confirmed their worst fears. The hive mind functioned as both a brain and a shield, protecting itself, with layers of adaptive defenses. Any direct assault would likely fail. Meanwhile, aboard the Daegun, preparations for the main assault continued. Pilots trained tirelessly, running simulations based on the reconnaissance team's findings. Engineers worked around the clock to modify weapons systems, incorporating insights gleaned from Varathian technology. Morale remained high, fueled by a shared sense of purpose. Ji-un played a crucial role during this time, translating ancient Varathian texts and uncovering strategies used in previous conflicts with the Xylothar. One document described a method of disrupting the hive mind's communication network using targeted electromagnetic pulses. Though risky, it offered a glimmer of hope. When the reconnaissance team returned, they delivered their report to General Huan and Captain Subin. Both men listened carefully, weighing the risks and rewards of each option. Finally, after much deliberation, they settled on a plan. Precision strikes aimed at disabling the hive mind's defenses, followed by a concentrated effort to destroy the core. As the final assault drew near, tension aboard the fleet reached a fever pitch. Soldiers like Private Min-Kyu Ro wrote letters home, unsure if they'd ever see Earth again. Others sought solace in camaraderie, sharing stories and laughter to ease their nerves. Despite the uncertainty, a sense of unity prevailed. Humanity and Varathians stood side by side, united by a common goal. On the eve of battle, Captain Subin addressed the crew one last time. "Tomorrow we face an enemy unlike any we've encountered before," he said, his voice steady and firm. "But remember this, we are not alone. Together we will fight for survival, for ourselves, for the Varathians, and for every living being threatened by the Xylothar. Let us show them that courage and compassion can triumph over fear and destruction." His words resonated deeply, inspiring confidence even amid doubt. As the crew dispersed to prepare for the coming conflict, a quiet resolve settled over the fleet. Whatever awaited them, they were ready to face it head-on. The stage was set. Humanity had answered the call of the stars, bringing with it the deadliest armada ever assembled. Now, as dawn broke over the ruined horizon of the Varathian homeworld, the true test began. The fate of two civilizations, and perhaps countless others, rested in the balance. The battle began under the cover of darkness, or rather the endless twilight that blanketed the devastated Varathian homeworld. The human armada moved with precision, guided by weeks of planning and intelligence gathered from the reconnaissance mission. Stealth ships led by Captain Subin Park slipped past Xylothar defenses, their engines silenced and hulls cloaked to avoid detection. Their objective was clear: plant EMP devices designed to disrupt the hive mind's communication network temporarily. If successful, these devices would create a window of opportunity for the main assault. Lieutenant Jae-ho Lee piloted one of the stealth ships, his hand steady on the controls despite the tension gripping his chest. Beside him sat Dr. Seong-ah, Kim, her eyes glued to the monitors as she tracked the ship's progress. The pair had developed a strong working relationship during the reconnaissance mission, relying on each other's strengths to navigate the dangers ahead. Now, as they approached the towering hive structure, both felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on them. "Stay low," Jae-ho muttered, guiding the ship through the maze of writhing tendrils that extended from the hive-like roots. "We don't want to give ourselves away." Dr. Seong-ah nodded, her fingers flying over the console as she adjusted the EMP device's settings. "Ready when you are," she said, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. Jae-ho maneuvered the ship into position, hovering just above the pulsating surface of the hive. With a deep breath, he activated the deployment sequence. The EMP device detached silently, embedding itself into the organic material below. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint tremor rippled through the structure, followed by a dimming of its glow. Success. But their relief was short-lived. Almost immediately, alarms blared throughout the fleet. The Xylothar had detected the intrusion. From every direction, biomechanical drones surged toward the stealth ships, their movements eerily synchronized. Tendrils lashed out, attempting to ensnare the intruders, while energy blasts tore through the air. Back aboard the Dagon, General Huan Min-su wasted no time issuing orders. "Launch decoy fighters!" he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Draw their attention away from the ground team." Waves of AI-driven drones shot forward, engaging the enemy in fierce dogfights. Explosions lit up the sky as human. Pilots fought valiantly to protect the infiltration team. Lieutenant Yoon-jin Choi coordinated communications between the fleet and the ground forces, her voice steady despite the mounting pressure. "Hold your positions," she urged over the comms. "We need more time!" Inside the hive, the situation grew increasingly dire. Dr. Seong-ah and Jae-ho pressed onward, navigating narrow tunnels filled with acidic fluids and snapping tendrils. Every step brought new horrors. Walls oozed viscous liquid that burned. Through armor and shadowy shapes darted in the corners of their vision. When one soldier fell victim to a sudden attack, another stepped forward without hesitation, driven by sheer determination. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the core chamber. At its center lay the queen organism, a massive, pulsating mass connected to countless smaller nodes via glowing filaments. It radiated an aura of power, its presence almost overwhelming. This was the heart of the Xylothar hive mind, the source of their unity and strength. "We found it," Dr. Seong-ah whispered, her voice trembling with awe and fear. She activated a handheld scanner analyzing the creature's physiology. "It's vulnerable here," she said, pointing to a cluster of nodes near the base. "If we can sever those connections—" Jae-ho didn't wait for further explanation. He grabbed a plasma cutter from his pack and advanced cautiously, dodging tendrils that whipped around him like whips. One strike grazed his shoulder, tearing through his suit and leaving a searing burn. Ignoring the pain, he focused on his task, slicing through the glowing filaments with precision. Sparks flew as the nodes disintegrated, causing the queen organism to writhe violently. Above ground, the battle raged on. General Huan coordinated orbital bombardments, raining fire upon key targets to weaken the Xylothar defenses. Fighter squadrons executed daring maneuvers, weaving between enemies and delivering devastating blows. Soldiers cheered as enemy drones collapsed, their bodies dissolving into inert matter. Yet for every drone destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Captain Subin watched the unfolding chaos from the bridge of the Dagon, his jaw clenched tightly. Despite the odds, his crew performed admirably, adapting to the ever-changing battlefield with remarkable speed. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that victory remained uncertain. Too much depended on the ground team's success. Finally, inside the hive, Dr. Seong-ah delivered the final blow. Using a device engineered with both human and Vayrothian technology, she activated a concentrated electromagnetic pulse. A surge of energy radiated outward, severing the connection between the queen organism and its drones. One by one, the biomechanical creatures froze mid-motion before collapsing lifelessly to the ground. Cheers erupted across the fleet as news of the victory spread. Pilots whooped over comms, while engineers celebrated in the engine rooms. Exhausted, but triumphant, the survivors regrouped, tending to the wounded and mourning the fallen. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge yet, and prevailed. On the surface, High Chancellor Irindra greeted Ambassador Kyung-Soo Nam with tears in her eyes. "You have saved us," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "How can we ever repay you?" Kyung-Soo smiled softly, though his expression carried a hint of sadness. "There is no debt to repay," he replied. "This was not just about saving your people. It was about proving that cooperation and compassion can overcome even the darkest threats." As the dust settled, humanity and the Vayrothians worked together to begin rebuilding. Engineers shared knowledge, scientists collaborated on solutions, and soldiers formed bonds that transcended species. For the first time in months, hope returned to the shattered planet. Yet amidst the celebrations, questions lingered. What other civilizations existed beyond the stars? Were there more threats lurking in the shadows? And perhaps most importantly, what kind of legacy would humanity leave among the cosmos? For Ji-yeon Kim, standing on the observation deck of the Daegun, the answer felt uncertain. She gazed out at the ruined landscape below, reflecting on the cost of their victory. War had solved the immediate problem, but at what price? Could humanity truly learn from this experience, or would history repeat itself? Captain Subin joined her quietly, leaning against the railing as he stared at the horizon. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked, his tone thoughtful. Ji-yeon hesitated before responding. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know this. We proved something today. We showed that even in the face of unimaginable danger, we're capable of coming together, for better or worse." Subin nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. Whatever challenges lay ahead, one truth remained clear. Humanity had taken its first step into the galaxy, and there was no turning back. The aftermath of the battle left both humans and Vayrothians grappling with its impact. The Xylothar threat had been neutralized, but the scars ran deep, both on the planet below and within the hearts of those who fought. The once lush homeworld of the Vayrothians now resembled a barren wasteland, stripped of life and color. Yet amidst the devastation, signs of renewal began to emerge. With humanity's help, the Vayrothians set out to rebuild their shattered world, planting seeds of hope in soil that had long been dead. High Chancellor Irindra stood alongside Ambassador Kyung-Soo Nam as they surveyed the first steps of reconstruction. Workers scurried about, clearing debris and setting up temporary shelters powered by advanced human technology. Solar panels hummed softly, providing energy to areas without power for years. Water purification systems pumped clean liquid into dry riverbeds, reviving patches of greenery that hinted at what might one day return. It was slow work, but progress felt tangible, a testament to cooperation across species. For Ji-yeon Kim, witnessing this transformation stirred mixed emotions. She walked through the budding settlements, listening to conversations between humans and Vayrothians. Their shared laughter and determination filled her with pride, yet she couldn't shake off the guilt gnawing at her conscience. Humanity had acted decisively, yes, but was it truly compassion that guided them, or fear? Had they intervened because they cared, or because they feared the Xylothar might someday turn their gaze toward Earth? These questions weighed heavily on her mind as she penned essays reflecting on the mission. Her words reached audiences across the globe, sparking debates about humanity's role in the cosmos. Some praised the bravery of the Armada, hailing it as a turning point in interstellar diplomacy. Others criticized the aggressive tactics, arguing that peaceful solutions should always come first. Ji-eun didn't take sides. Instead, she urged caution and introspection. "We must ask ourselves," she wrote, what kind of legacy we wish to leave behind. Will we be remembered as saviors or conquerors? Captain Subin Park retired from active duty shortly after returning to Earth. The strain of leadership during such a monumental mission had taken its toll, leaving him eager for quieter pursuits. He dedicated himself to mentoring young officers, sharing lessons learned from his experiences. Though hailed as a hero, he remained humble, deflecting praise onto his crew. "I wasn't alone," he often said. "Every soldier, every technician, every scientist, they all played a part. Victory belongs to all of us." General Huan Min-su faced a different kind of scrutiny. His decision to prioritize overwhelming force earned him accolades from some quarters, particularly military leaders, who admired his decisiveness, but critics accused him of putting power above compassion, warning that aggression could alienate potential allies in the future. Despite the controversy, Huan remained steadfast in his beliefs. "Strength commands respect," he argued during interviews. "If we want peace, we must be prepared for war." As Earth looked to the stars, new opportunities arose. The Varathians honored their promise, sharing advanced technology that propelled humanity centuries ahead. Breakthroughs in medicine cured diseases once thought incurable. Innovations in energy production eliminated reliance on fossil fuels, ushering in an era of sustainability. Space travel became faster, safer, and more accessible, opening doors to exploration previously unimaginable. But with opportunity came uncertainty. What other civilizations existed beyond the Varathians? Were there more threats lurking in the dark? And perhaps most importantly, how would humanity define itself among the stars? These questions loomed large, shaping discussions in classrooms, boardrooms, and government halls worldwide. Lieutenant Yoon-jin Choi found herself at the center of these conversations. As a prominent figure aboard the Daegun, her insights carried weight. She traveled the globe, speaking at conferences and meeting with leaders from various nations. Her message was simple. Unity mattered. "We achieved victory not because we were stronger or smarter," she explained, "but because we worked together. If we carry that spirit forward, there's no limit to what we can accomplish." Meanwhile, Private Min-kyu Ro returned home to a hero's welcome. Friends and family embraced him tightly, tears streaming down their faces. For months, he struggled to adjust to civilian life, haunted by memories of comrades lost in battle. Writing letters hadn't prepared him for the reality of coming home. But over time, he found solace in reconnecting with loved ones and in sharing his story with others. At local schools, he spoke candidly about the sacrifices made and the lessons learned. "War changes you," he told students, "but it also teaches you the value of peace." Dr. Seong-ah Kim continued her research, driven by curiosity about the Xylothar and their origins. Though the hive mind had been destroyed, fragments of their biology remained, preserved for study. In laboratories around the world, scientists worked tirelessly to understand the biomechanical entities, hoping to prevent similar threats in the future. For Seong-ah, the work was personal, a way to honor those who had risked everything to stop the invasion. Back aboard the Daegun, now docked in orbit around Earth, maintenance crews conducted repairs and upgrades. The ship bore the marks of battle, scorch, marks on its hull, dense from impacts, but it remained a symbol of resilience. Its crew dispersed to new assignments, carrying with them the bonds forged during their journey. Some stayed in touch, exchanging messages and visiting when possible. Others drifted apart, their paths diverging as life moved forward. As weeks turned into months, humanity adjusted to its newfound place in the galaxy. News outlets buzzed with stories of discovery, new planets explored, ancient ruins uncovered, and distant signals intercepted. Each revelation brought excitement and trepidation, reminding people of the vastness of space and the unknown dangers it held. Yet optimism prevailed. For the first time, humanity saw itself not as isolated inhabitants of a single planet, but as part of something greater. Jian often visited observatories late at night, gazing at the stars through telescopes. She wondered if somewhere out there another civilization watched Earth with the same mix of awe and apprehension. Would they see humanity as friends or foes? The answer depended on choices yet to be made. One evening, as she stood beneath the open dome of an observatory, Captain Subin joined her unexpectedly. They hadn't spoken much since returning, each absorbed in their respective lives. But tonight, silence felt natural, comfortable even. Together they stared at the heavens, lost in thought. "You know," Subin said finally, breaking the quiet, "sometimes I wonder if we'll ever truly understand what we're doing out there." Ji-yeon smiled faintly. "Probably not," she admitted. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe understanding isn't the point. Maybe it's about trying, to learn, to grow, to connect. Even if we fail sometimes, at least we tried." Subin nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on a distant star. "That's something worth holding on to." And so, as humanity stepped further into the cosmos, it did so with cautious optimism. Mistakes had been made, lessons learned, and sacrifices endured. But through it all, a glimmer of hope remained, a belief that courage and compassion could guide the way. When aliens asked for help, humans sent the deadliest armada ever. In doing so, they proved themselves capable of great destruction and profound unity. What came next was theirs to decide.